Hey guys, Joey here. Got an interesting topic for y'all today. This one is not going to be a theory really. It's going to be more of a discussion about a theory, and I think this is incredibly interesting to say the least. So let's delve into the topic. Today I want to talk about Momonosuke and why exactly he thinks that he knows Gold Roger when Gold Roger died 20 years ago and Momonosuke is supposedly 8 years old. So the first thing that I did whenever I heard of this theory, and I actually heard of this theory through King of Lightning, and he made a big deal about putting some connections together. And to be honest with you, when I first heard this, I was like, you are a fucking idiot. Because there's just no way that Momonosuke is older than he looks. He's like secretly 25 years old, but he's actually 8. But I started to look into it, and the more I look into it, the more credibility the theory actually has. So totally eating my thoughts now. But so the first thing I look at is I look at the scene. What exactly is going on here when Momonosuke says that? And I'm expecting him to have some sort of give an impression of hey, I'm trying to fit in. I want to be cool too, or maybe I'm confused or something. But he actually says what he says with a whole lot of confidence. When you look at it, at his expression when he says that, oh yeah, I remember Roger, although I was very young at the time, he says it very confidently. And we can actually see even before then, whenever they first start talking about Roger, he has a little ... of someone who's like thinking, and perhaps thinking about that he remembers this person named Roger. So I find this to be incredibly weird and interesting. It definitely, I think, hints to the idea that maybe Momonosuke does actually remember Roger. So with the idea in mind that Momonosuke may be older than he appears, I went and I looked back at some of the previous chapters to see if I could find anything interesting. And, although I was mostly not successful, I did find a couple things that are at least worthy of talking about. The first thing is I've never seen someone who has been, their age has been identified as many times as Momo. It's almost, it is weird how many times they say specifically, oh, Momonosuke is a child who's 8 years old. They say it just redundantly. Like, oh, Luffy's fighting with an 8-year-old. Oh, he's an 8-year-old, but he's being a pervert. It's just like crazy the amount of times they say that. And you can either take this one of two ways. You can say that this is just sort of layering on here that he is actually 8 years old, or maybe it's Oda drawing attention to the idea that he's not 8 years old, like how Momonosuke and Kinemon always said, oh, he's my son, oh, he's my father, and that wasn't true. They said that repetitively in the same kind of way. Perhaps being 8 years old is also a lie, and they say it redundantly to sort of emphasize that it is a lie. But I will say this: there's a certain scenarios in which they pull off that lie, if it is a lie, very, very convincingly. Like for instance, we see whenever Kinemon asks the Straw Hats for help in their battle versus Kaido on Wano, or versus the Shogun, Luffy looks over to Momonosuke, who's crying, and says, I thought you were supposed to be the leader. You need to, tell me what you want me to do. Don't let other people talk for you. And so then Momonosuke is like, oh, well, everyone's like, oh, well, he's only 8 years old. This includes Kinemon, and it's very convincing that they believe that Momonosuke is actually a child who isn't worthy of making decisions yet. And then Momonosuke himself says, I'm a child, I'm weak, and I need help. And so I'm not sure if this is more of a inference or description of his physical state, which is that he's weak and he's small, or his age. But definitely during that scene, it was fairly convincing that he was actually 8 years old. So is Momonosuke older than he appears? Is he actually 8 years old? I'm not 100% certain. But I will say that this theory is definitely worth merit and something for consideration and to look for in future chapters of One Piece. Most definitely. But there's some other possibilities as to what's going on with Momo recognizing Roger, or saying that he remembers Roger. And one of those things is that someone brings up the idea that, oh, well, maybe you're remembering someone else. Who are you confusing Roger with? So maybe Momonosuke remembers somebody who is similar to Roger, but not Roger. So the obvious candidates for who could be similar to Roger is Ace. However, we know that Momonosuke is currently 8 years old, which means that he would have had to meet this person, I would say, to vaguely remember them, like at least 4 years ago when he was like 4 or 3. And I think that excludes Ace. So is there anyone else who could be reminiscent of Roger who visited Wano recently? I don't really think that there's anyone that just immediately pops into mind. I would say that I like the theory of Momonosuke being older than he appears more than this theory that he actually met someone who reminds, or who gives the impression of Roger to him. Because I don't understand how a little kid could be reminded of Roger or confused as to, you know, oh, I thought I met Roger, but I actually met someone else, when he wasn't alive to meet Roger in the first place. It seems really hard to confuse someone that you have never met with someone that you have met. I feel like it would be the other way around. You would confuse Roger with somebody that you had met. So obviously a little bit confusing there, but I think it's worthy of mentioning. Someone brought this up, and Oda does and has in the past used a character stating something as a question as actual foreshadowing to what's actually going on. And I have a third option here, and I think this one is the one that really inspired this discussion, because everything else here is either, I think for the most part, useless or already been said. And this is my idea, but we saw that Momonosuke has some sort of power. We don't know exactly how this power works or what it is, and that will obviously be explained in the future, I believe, when Momonosuke talks to Zunisha, and Zunisha tells him why it is that he can control her. But we see that using this power, he can see through Zunisha's eyes, and some people speculate that it's a form of Haki. You know, I'm not going to go down that road, but I think that's definitely possible. But I wonder if maybe Momonosuke has memories from somebody else that he's confusing for his own memories. And this could be along the lines of a power that is related to some of the interesting powers that he's shown at the end of the Zou arc, specifically with Zunisha. Yet again, don't want to go too specific into this because this is complete speculation. There's really nothing to back this up other than Momonosuke has a power that we don't know anything about. But I think that when looking at this, I'm fully convinced that Momonosuke at the very least thinks that he's met Roger. And the fact that this is stated, and he thinks that he knows him, it's going to be revealed in the future, and so there's probably going to be some explanation. And I think that my two favorite ideas on the topic are that Momonosuke is actually older than he appears to be, or that he says he is, and or that he has memories of somebody else, or has another person's memories that he's confused as his own memory. Alright guys, that's about all I got. I know I'm not finishing off this post with a concrete idea or opinion, but I wanted to bring this up purely for discussion and acknowledgement of something that I feel like will definitely be something covered in the future. Whether or not we have the answer here or the answer is something else is to be decided, but I think that we should keep our eyes open going forward in the story of One Piece with this idea or this sort of concept in mind. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you like what I'm doing. If you have something to say, make sure that you comment, and have a nice day, everyone.